watched the film of the Miami Notre Dame game, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so is it eye test? Is it head to head? Is it all of it? Is it? So I think there's a way that the committee can pave that road and make it straighter, just for the fans, um, for the viewers, and that's a way that's gonna
Yeah.
kind of keep
Let's
weight
call
heat off of you.
let's call it straight also. I mean, if you guys disagree with me, let me know. I also think the only reason that they ended up jumping Miami over Notre Dame was because Duke beat Virginia. And I don't think that they were comfortable leaving the ACC out. I understand they're the mid CC. I get all of that. I don't believe that if Duke had lost that game and Virginia was automatically in, I don't believe they would have made the flip.
Yeah, I'm a man of principle, and I think that there's so many principles in this circumstance that all pointed to Alabama and Miami. And I think if they would have gone with Notre Dame, they would have just said bye to all of that. Chaos would have ensued. There would have been insane repercussions because of all of it. I think number one, the most important one that you guys both hit on, is head-to-head play on the field. And for every single Notre Dame fan out there that's saying, well, there's so much more to it than that. There is. And none of that gave a separator to Notre Dame or Miami. So you have to go to head to head. And that should be factor 1A through whatever. I also think conference championship games played into this. Like you said, Reagan, for the ACC and the SEC. Are you really going to punish an Alabama team that finished number one in the regular season in the SEC and had to play an extra game while everybody else sat at home? Especially when you did that with SMU last year. The ironic thing about all of this is last year, Notre Dame wasn't a bubble team. They were in, even though they had the worst loss of the season. But Miami and Alabama were also bubble teams that both got left out. Do you really think that they were going to do that 2 years in a row when all the ammunition in the world, especially strength of schedule and quality wins and all that kind of stuff, would have just been thrown out the door?
Yeah.
I think there would have been a riot and there would have been a point of no return. What's funny is Notre Dame, I want to be careful with my words here, but I guess I'll go the easy route here. There's other things I'd like to say that I'm not going to say, but their schedule next year is even worse than this year's, and I thought their schedule this year was atrocious. And so I felt like if they rewarded Notre Dame with a seat at the table this year, it would have been past the point of no return. They might as well just say Notre Dame's in every single year. And the irony of all of it is that now it does seem like Notre Dame might get in every single year. Did you guys see that Ross Dellinger
Yeah.
report?
Yeah, we need to see a little bit more and have that thing come to light a little bit more to understand that MOU, because if it is true that they have some special privilege MOU in place to where if they're top 12 in the rankings, they're automatically in, like that needs to come to light and that needs to be flushed out a little bit.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and
again,
if that's the case, then the, with this week's schedule, it almost has to be like if they have one loss to a team that's horrible, like you're done.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, but like I'm gonna put you at 13. Then every single year I'm gonna put you at 13 as a one loss team. But that loss coming to a Stanford or what a team a lower level team like that.
Yeah.
and I'd love to also now take the hat off and vouch for Notre Dame. Once again, Howie and Reagan, you both nailed it. The 5+7 format is ultimately what's keeping Notre Dame out. Notre Dame should undoubtedly be a playoff team right now. They 100% are one of the 12 best teams in the country. And if we did just a straight 1 through 12, they'd be in. And that's a shame for all of us as college football fans, because we can get into some of those hypothetical spreads and what the actual spreads are with some of these 11 and 12 seeds, but it's unfortunate. The other side of that though is everyone, all the media talking heads that are in bed with these conferences, right? Like NBC is in bed with Notre Dame. So Nicole Auerbach is going crazy on Twitter, has no credibility. The irony of all of this, Reagan and Howie, and I wonder if you guys have had the same thought, is that NBC doesn't have any playoff rights for like they
Well,
don't have any playoff games. They are
nobody
solely based on the
does.
regular season.
Nobody
So
has any rights outside of ESPN, which that's a whole other issue.
So if I'm NBC and I'm going, I want Notre Dame in the playoff, I do want them in the playoff because that makes my product more valuable next season. But I'm also going, I really want my product to be most valuable when it's most valuable for us in the regular season. So if I'm Nicole Auerbach or NBC, I want the highest quality matchups possible for Notre Dame in the regular season. Does that make any sense?
Totally.
Yeah, I think again, so many things are shifting and changing. NBC also carries Big Ten as well. With NBC, I believe there's some 3:30 games in there. Again, dependent on Notre Dame. Notre Dame drives a bus on that. And then some of the Big Ten games, like the Marylands and the Michigan States, get pushed to Peacock on NBC. But I think, uh, I said this before the Big Ten championship game. I was just like, man, if IU loses to Ohio State, um, those big media personalities that drive the narrative for a lot of this um, are gonna just wreck Indiana and the season they've had as all for naught kind of thing. And I think for Notre Dame's sake, like I love the fact that again I'm not a Notre Dame fan at all. Like I cannot stand them. But I appreciate the fact that they're gonna sit and being an independent,
Yes.
like opting out of the bowl game is a good play. Like, okay, you leave me out of the college football playoff and I'm an independent. I'm not going to bring my donors and my fans into your system to make you a whole bunch of money and then you'll give me a little bit of the cut and then we're just going to walk away and shake hands. Like, no, I don't think that's right. And I appreciate Notre Dame doing that, although I don't love it. Like, I think if you get
Yeah.
awarded a game, I think you should play it. But in this circumstance, I think as an independent, you stand behind it because the committee stood behind their metric.
No, and I think that look, it's their right. I don't think any of us are going to argue if they don't have the right to opt out. It's their right to opt out. I have a real problem with it, man, because I've always been told you'll find out who somebody really is when they're mad, when they're drunk, something like that. And for them to walk away from the season, take their ball and go home, look, I'm a Georgia fan. 2023, we were on a 29 game winning streak. We lost by 3 points. It's different playoff, 14 versus 12. Totally get that. But then Georgia turned around and put together one of the most dominant performances to put a nice bow for the seniors, for the fans. And again, it's their right. I had a real problem with that. It just seemed like such a crybaby move to walk away. And I see, oh, we're not going to let them make money off of us. Like, man, it's for the fans, it's for your fan base, it's for your seniors that are never going to get to play or practice again. Like, I had a real problem with that personally. Again, they're right, don't argue with that, but
Yeah, I also
man,
think there's no closure for the season on them as well, right? Like you sat here and you waited, and you as a Notre Dame team and fan thought you still had more games to play in the playoff, and then it's like it's I'm with you, Reagan, on I think it's a sour
show how
move.
good
It's a
you are.
crybaby move. Yes.
Georgia went and showed how good they were and that they made their emphatic end to that season saying, you know what, you did mess up by not putting us in. They could have went and gotten a BYU or a Texas or a Vanderbilt scheduled, went and put hands on them and said, you really did mess up and here's why. Versus
100%.
now their season ends with one ranked win all year against USC and a lot of tears.
Yeah, it doesn't sit right with me, but I do want to go back to Howie, the first portion of what you said, and I completely agree. And you guys might actually disagree with me on this, and I'm totally cool with it. I love friendly conversation, and I think there's a lot we don't completely agree on, but I fully support Notre Dame's independence. I want to make that very clear. I'm a college football traditionalist. I think it's awesome for them and like history's sake. The problem is that again, there's no problem with it in and of itself. I think it's awesome. It's good for them. BYU was an independent just a few years ago. UConn's an independent. Great. Good for them. You make your choice. I just think right now the system favors independence and Notre Dame knows that and they're taking advantage of it. And I think that if the committee would have put them in, it would have been the final straw. And you would have seen a lot of other teams backing out of things as soon as they can. And again, I'm a principled guy. I just always zoom out and I go, national scheduling standard would be amazing. And I had this idea. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. We're going on a real Notre Dame tangent here, but as long as you guys are cool with it. If I'm a Power Four conference commissioner, right? And Notre Dame wants to schedule a team from my conference, I'm going to say, sure thing, go ahead. But I'm going to have my own internal metrics of where I rate my schools within my conference. And I'm going to say, hey, if you want to play Stanford, you've also got to play Miami. And we did get to see some of that this year in the SEC. Hey, if you want to play Arkansas, you also got to play Texas A&M. And what we didn't see that though in was much of the Big Ten and the ACC. We saw a lot of picking on the bottom basement teams. But when they did play a top tier ACC team and when they did play a top tier SEC team, it didn't go well for them. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I like it. I like the idea of, more good games. I think that being independent has its pluses and minuses. I think that this is the first time they've really had to deal with the potential minuses. Like you said, they've enjoyed a lot of positives of being independent.
Yeah, and I just think as far as I mean, I've always said Notre Dame getting a conference like
Yeah.
that's the way the college football landscape is going. But we've also sat on this show and said that these mega conferences are kind of killing college
Yeah.
football a little bit. So then what happens to the Big Ten? What happens to the ACC? What happens to the Big 12? Or what happens to the SEC? SEC would probably be fine. But what happens to those other three conferences if you add Notre Dame, like for recruiting, for the top tier of your team, suddenly you knock down a top tier program or top four team. Now they're five or six in a conference, and that's not like that's dead.
Yeah. What is
Like
it? What does it do
you're
to Penn
dead.
State theoretically if they join the Big
Yeah.
Ten before Penn State imploded this year?
Correct.
What does it do to a Penn State or a Michigan? I get
Correct.
what you're saying. And again, none of us, I don't think any of us really like where the mega conferences and the realignment has taken it. And again, I think they should join a conference. I'm not going to sit there and tell them they should have to, though. I think they have to weigh the pluses and the minuses. I feel like this year they had to deal with the minuses a little bit of, hey, you scheduled weak opponents outside of Miami, Texas A&M, and USC. You didn't win two-thirds of those games. You know, you
Yeah.
got to deal with the negatives.
100%. I think that's a great landing spot for all of us.